Why does the media and government immediately jump to the conclusion that all American assassinations are the work of a lone nut gunman? JFK, then RFK, then MLK, and now Trump? But a lot of evidence is mounting in this recent case that there might have been shots that came from other shooters. And true to form, last Sunday, the official FBI statement after the assassination attempt was, the investigation to date indicates the shooter acted alone. And the major media sources have been in lockstep with them ever since. The truth is, it's hard to take a shot at a man with Secret Service protection all around him unless you have help. It's very hard, especially if you're an inexperienced 20-year-old who's a bad shot like Thomas Michael Crooks. This is Bible teacher Nelson Walters. Today we're going to try to help you sort out this gigantic mess of whether the Trump shooting was a conspiracy, possibly one linked to Bible prophecy, or whether it was just another event in a long line of crazy events in the last 9 months. There are really only two choices. Either Crooks acted alone or he had help. If he had help, it's by definition a conspiracy. And if it was a conspiracy, then who planned it? Does the Bible give us a hint? That's really the big question. Who planned this? So let's look at that question first. Now, it may seem backwards to you. Many would say, hey, prove it's a conspiracy first, then we'll look at that. But if we show who would logically be behind all this, then it will help us solve the conspiracy question. Now, this wasn't any old attempted assassination, but the assassination of a presidential candidate, timed to happen in the exact same week as the withdrawal of the sitting president from the race, a withdrawal that he told us was against his will. If the assassination attempt was successful, the USA would have an election in November where neither candidate was chosen by the people in primaries. Essentially, this would be a total reset of the presidency that's never happened before. A coup, in other words, by force for both candidates. Neither candidate would be chosen by the people. They would have been chosen by the elite. But this wasn't just any old attempted coup, because we are now only 2 months away from the greatest international event of all times. The United Nations Summit for the Future and the Pact for the Future, an agreement that they hope will come out of that event. A pact that may grant the UN emergency powers over the whole world. The UN calls this the most important meeting in a generation. Who the U.S. president may be when that pact needs ratification in the USA will be very important to the globalists behind these efforts. The Pact for the Future may sink or swim based on who that president is. So it would have been very convenient for the globalists if both Biden and Trump were removed from the race in the same month, don't you think? Then, two entirely new candidates, without the time to properly vet who they really are, would become the candidates. If they were handpicked by the globalist agenda would succeed no matter which candidate won. Interesting, isn't it? So if you're looking for who would be behind a conspiracy like that, my thought is this: who has the most to gain? In my mind, that's the globalists and the bankers who want the Pact for the Future to succeed. Not just folks in the USA, but a worldwide conspiracy planned by the elites. Don't think small. I think this was big time. Maybe it was carried out by the deep state, but it was planned, I think, by a bunch of levels above them, at least on a human level. And of course, above that by Satan also. Especially if this Pact for the Future is the covenant with the many that the Bible predicts will launch the tribulation, the covenant that's found in Daniel 9:27. And he will make a strong covenant with the many for 7 years. So taking out both USA presidential candidates in 1 week was pushing all their chips into the middle of the table to make that happen. I'm sure you realize, though, that what the Bible says will happen is going to happen. The covenant with the many is going to take place. The tribulation is going to happen. But is this pact for the future this fall, that covenant? Well, we think it may be, but we can't say with certainty. No one can. But if it is, remember, nothing on earth is going to stop it because it's written in God's Word. If it is, it will be ratified regardless who is president. But here is the important point. This is the takeaway. The globalists don't know that. They don't have faith in God's Word. They're going to try to make it happen on their own no matter what. So because if this was their plot, and we know it failed, they're going to try all sorts of other things. Financial collapse, war, civil unrest. I mean, who knows? So we as Christians should be prepared. The very fact that attempts were made to remove 2 presidential candidates in the same week should tell you these are not normal times. And if this was the motive for an attempt on Trump's life, then higher-ups in the U.S. government possibly were involved, and their investigations need to be looked at with utter suspicion. I personally am following the citizen investigations of Dr. Chris Martenson of Peak Prosperity and Natalie and Clayton Morris of Redacted. Website links are down in the description. I recommend if you are interested in this topic, you'll follow them also. So how do we prove this was not a conspiracy to eliminate former President Trump? We have to prove that Thomas Michael Crooks acted alone, that he planned the shooting and took all the shots, that he didn't have help. In order to believe Crooks acted alone, we must believe all the following. The myriad of security failures, that we've seen by the Social Security Service and local law enforcement were all incompetence, not pre-planned, not designed. That Thomas Michael Crooks felt secure that he could bring his rifle to the event and not be seen climbing up a building so close to Trump. That Crooks chose not to leave evidence of his motive on social media and chose to use encrypted messaging apps for reasons other than protecting his co-conspirators. That no one else drove Crooks's white van away from the event. We'll get to that. That the person climbing on the water tower that day wasn't part of the conspiracy, and that there wasn't a second or third shooter. Now, 95% of these online discussions have been about the myriad of security failures. How did Crooks climb a building with a rifle? A building that was so close to the president and not be seen, and neutralized by Secret Service snipers who are watching him through their scopes, or the local security unit who are looking out open windows of the building right behind Crooks while dozens of people were crying out, "He's got a gun, he's got a gun." And while those things seemed very incriminating, unfortunately, unless a whistleblower comes forward to claim it was intentional, the government can claim it was just total incompetence. In the same way, why would you use encrypted messaging apps? I don't use those, other than to keep your contact persons private. If the government is involved in the conspiracy, their investigation really can't be trusted once the encryption is broken. Since they are suspects in the crime, I don't personally trust anything that they're going to tell us that they've discovered. But what is very interesting is that a private investigation, not the government, checked the GPS data from people who came in close contacts with Crooks in the couple weeks before, and they showed that someone who visited his house was also near or in an FBI building in Washington. Again, very suspicious, but not enough to prove conspiracy. The water tower, with direct vision to both Trump and the roof where Crooks was shot, is also very interesting, is that an individual is seen at the moment of the shooting coming out from behind the top of the water tower. And then he's seen ducking back behind the top during some of the shooting. And then he comes out again. Now, was this person on the water tower a law enforcement person, or was it a conspirator? Well, if it was a law enforcement agent, he would have had a clear shot at Crooks, but he didn't take it. Also, there is a video that has just surfaced on the internet showing policemen running towards the water tower. Why would they run toward their own person? Body cam footage of a local SWAT team member picked up the police radio that mentioned this water tower and their need to secure it. So that also implies it wasn't a policeman on top of that water tower. Now, Crooks apparently had three means of transportation at the Trump rally: a car, a bicycle, and a white van. Immediately after the shooting, the white van was filmed as being parked right under that water tower. The same water tower we just spoke of. Later, police located the van 10 miles from the rally. So how did it get there if Crooks was already deceased? This is like a really major question that they're going to need to answer. Finally, the evidence that may prove the government's involvement is how many shooters were involved. It is possible it was just Crooks, but it's more likely they wanted a pro to take the first shot or two at Trump. I'm old enough to remember the Kennedy assassination. I know on the night of a shooting, they held the alleged gun up. They then said they had the bullet casings and that they tested the subject to see if he had shot a rifle. That's what you expect in a murder investigation. The FBI waited 10 full days to even announce they had recovered 8 casing shells on the roof. This was very odd. Why not report this immediately? Why did they wait? Was it for the audio evidence so they knew how many bullets were actually shot, rather than embarrass themselves by saying another number and then finding out there were more shots? I mean, who knows? I just found it very odd. And all they ever said was that the casings were found on the roof. They didn't say that they came from Crooks's gun. A person could have laid the shells, as they insinuated in the Kennedy assassination, also in an incriminating place. Now, in the Kennedy assassination, we also had a single, scratchy, low-quality recording of the shooting. And that recording was used as evidence 15 years later with the House Select Committee to establish that it was a conspiracy. In the Trump assassination attempt, we now have pristine audio evidence of the shots, and lots of it. Not only did Trump's microphone at the podium record the sounds, but dozens, maybe hundreds of cell phones did as well. Initial reports from the National Center for Media Forensics in Denver, Colorado, and its director, Caitlin Gregoris, showed 3 to 4 guns and 10 total shots. 1 shot was by a sniper from the Secret Service, 1 by the local SWAT team member, but that still leaves 2 guns. If suppressed firearms with silencers were used, there may even have been more. Listen to this video recording for the differences in the weapons. First, you'll hear 3 shots. Pop, pop, pop. Then 5 in a row. Rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat. Then a clunk. Listen. Did you notice the first 3 were kind of muffled? Maybe as if they were taken from indoors. Then 5 in a row with lots of metallic echoes off the building roofs. Then that clunk shot. Listen again. Did you hear it? All right, let's listen one more time, but slowed down this time. Okay, so there were 3 weapons in different places. Additionally, this audio evidence can provide estimates of how far from Trump's microphone the shots were fired. Interestingly, the first 3 shots seemed to be about 40 to 50 feet closer to Trump than Crooks. So where was that second gun? The first to fire? Could the shooter have been in one of the windows directly below Crooks on the same exact line of fire with him to Trump? It would also give people the sense that all the shots were coming from the same place, because the shooters then would be lined up, one right before the other. This would muffle the shots, just like the audio recording, because it would have been indoors. Additionally, it would mean that the shot came from near the ground and was rising when it nicked Trump's ear. It was a rising shot. This is entirely consistent with the victims on the right side of the stage. There were 2 of them, and the hydraulic speaker that was hit in that area as well. These victims were 10 to 12 feet higher than Trump, as well as the hydraulic. If Crooks was shooting down at the former president, how could people be injured above Trump's level? Does this mean that local law enforcement were involved? They were tasked with securing that exact building, Building 6. Ms. Cheadle, on the first day after the incident, said they were in that building. Now, whether we can believe her or not, we don't know, but that's what she said. These same police happened to apprehend people who were filming that day, citizens who were there at the rally, filming the SWAT team during the shooting and filming Crooks. Just like pictures and films were seized during the Kennedy assassination. Notice how many times we go back. It's almost like they were using that as a model. But the bottom line of all this is, I don't know if we'll ever prove that it was a conspiracy. But the election is not the answer. We should not be putting our hope in the election, but rather in our blessed hope, which is Jesus. Because if it is a conspiracy, it's all about the summit for the future and possibly the covenant with the many. You know, we may be heading right into the end times, folks, and the United States government may not be able to help us at all. Oh, one more prophecy item. Now, some people claim this shot at Trump wounding his ear was the beast's fatal headshot from Revelation 13:3 and 4, the one that's healed. Folks, that wasn't a fatal shot. It might have been, except for a miraculous turn of his head, but it was not fatal. Plus, there are still things that must take place for the true Antichrist to come to power. Click right here to keep watching and discover the steps necessary before the Antichrist can be revealed. Till then, this is Nelson, and I'll see you there.